So get this. We covered this story before, right? So you got in Janville, Virginia, Sean King tweeted that out. Hey, Sean King doesn't have a blue check. Isn't that weird? Everybody knows who he is.
That's
right?
weird, yeah.
Maybe he does.
I'll Photoshop one in.
Okay. So anyway, and it was about the story about in Danville, Virginia, the cops were putting up their hoods, and the theory was that they were doing that to block their dash cams so they couldn't be videotaped. Which I've never seen cops do this, right? I've never saw cops with their hoods up. I've never ever seen that ever. I've traveled all over the country. I've traveled all over Canada. I've traveled in Europe, Australia, Caribbean, Mexico. I've never seen a cop car with his hood up, ever. I've never even seen a cop car overheat.
I lived in Chicago for 10 years, didn't see any.
Never. And it gets 100 degrees routine in Chicago in the summer with 100% humidity. So I've never seen it. So Snopes said that that's what it was. Snopes looked into it, and they talked to the police department, and the police department said they're doing that so the cars don't overheat. And Snopes was like, well, that's it. Thank you very much. And we were like, wait a minute, this sounds like BS, right? Cop car, just what we just said. We've never seen this. We never heard of a cop car overheating. And then they had Snopes also had another email from the same police department saying, it's not an overheating issue. It's more of a continuous heating issue because of their electronics inside the car. They get heat up. And again, we had never, ever heard of this. Nobody seen it. My dad was a cop. My oldest brother's a cop. My grandpa's a cop. Lots of my best friends in Chicago are cops. I'd never heard or seen of a cop car overheating because of electronic equipment. So we did it. I had a listener emailed in a link to this Police Fleet Manager magazine. That's a real thing.
It's a good one. I get the monthly subscription.
Police Fleet Manager magazine. There's a magazine for everything. There's a magazine for everything. So Police Fleet Manager magazine, meaning so the people who purchase police vehicles and there was a section in there about the new Impalas. Anyway, that talked about cars overheating. There was just a very little. It says on the topic of the heat of Tucson, the GM fleet gave an update on Impala 9C1 cooling issues. First, the cooling fan problem. So I guess I guess there had been problems. Electric relays that control the fan motors were originally mounted under the hood in a black box without ventilation. Under hot ambient conditions during periods of extended idling, the fan relays would overheat and fail. This shut off power to the electric radiator fans. GM fixed this in two ways. Well, first, the relay was upgraded to a heavier duty circuit. Second, the relays were moved to the cowl away from the under the hood area where it is both cooler and ventilated. The second cooling issue is the HVAC that overheats at idle under hot ambient conditions, overloads, and shuts off. This fix was to get more air into the condenser coils, which keeps the whole system cooler. Again, two solutions. One is a higher watt electric fan that forces air across the condenser. It was bumped up from 225 watts to 300 watts. The other is a baffle redesign. The baffle that moves air into the condenser was revised. So I don't understand any of this. But turns out that there was an issue that's been noticed in this magazine of patrol cars. So even though I have never, ever seen it, we did find in that patrol magazine, car magazine, we did find a little bit of them talking about Impalas in Tucson. So
one of those was a bigger truck. They're not all Impalas.
Yeah, I know.
Photos,
right. No,
Yeah.
So again, it's still unclear why those cars in Danville, Virginia were raised. Because again, it seems like, first of all, if this was a huge problem, you'd think you would see it everywhere. Never seen it anywhere, ever. But this is what we found out. So Snopes just contacted the police department, which gave two contradictory, that's 4, 2 trillion.
I'm seeing double here.
2 contradictory.
Wow.
That's magic.
Yeah, you should
Watch.
do it on stage. Whoa.
2 contradictory stories. One was that the cars were overheating, and then the second email from the police department was, no, it's just a continuous heating problem. So we never saw police cars with their hoods up before. Snopes, little too quick to discount, little too quick to take the police department's word for it, as far as I'm concerned. I always try to, they just took the word from the police. You got to get another reference somehow. Before you declare it, I'm not saying you can't say, hey, it doesn't look like it's that. That's fine to say that. But to say, we're going to go ahead and make a judgment, I don't think they should have did that. But anyway, so there's our follow-up. There maybe is an issue that still it still sets off my BS detector as to why in Danville, Virginia, of all places, they needed to start putting the hoods up on cars, but nowhere else.